When the thoughts are calmly collected and the imagination is properly directed, the dots are easily connected.
Welcome from your voyages, James, King of James, right? You go by on Instagram. King of James. Why King of?
Well, I don't claim to be a king. The process of claiming our nobility, it has claimed me. So I'm not the king, but it's the King of James. If that makes any
I think
sense.
I follow. Yeah,
it's something that's kind of happening, and so in my attempt to be humble and reverence, I phrase it that way.
I got it. Like you're the king archetype, aspiring to be the king archetype of this human called James.
It's more the process that's happening to the James. It's the kinging of James without me being, I'm King James.
Right,
you know what I mean?
The self-proclaimed. Yeah. So, but yeah, welcome, Brandon. Like you've been out building your log cabin. Then you were out in Mexico. You know, you shared a post that was just you naked, free. And then that's when I asked him, like, where is that? Because I thought you were up in Ontario. And then that's when you confirmed you're in Mexico.
That would be a pretty cold waterfall.
Oh, I can imagine.
I don't want to disclose the exact location. I did to you privately, but it's a very pure, I believe, ancient sacred place, although no information is documented on that. So deep in the jungle, the mountains of Oaxaca province. And
Oaxaca. Okay.
Yes, Oaxaca, the second most southern province of Mexico, where it starts to loop around before it connects to, I think, Nicaragua.
Oh, okay.
And I was in that area, in the mountains and on the coast, and very powerful place. I had been introduced to it about 11 months ago in the same year of 2024, and I'd never gone away for my birthday before, and because this was the big one that I was turning,
okay.
I felt that
your birthday treat.
Yeah, well,
and 50, that's like 5 decades of human life. That's a lot of wisdom earned, man. That's a lot of snakes skins shedded and a lot of wisdom earned in the process.
Yeah, I honor every version of James that has come before, because it's never I dislike who I was. It's I honor who I have been, because it's quite figuratively the shedding of those layers. But
exactly.
In that comes the defragmentation process, where we're actually collecting back the lost pieces of ourselves, not only from this current life, but ones we have come through before. And that reassembly brings us closer to the core of the truth of who and what we are.
Right.
And when we do that in the present, we are bringing our future self in the present to actually go back in time space to who and what we actually originally were. So it bends the space-time fabric when we pull our pieces back together. And it also heals the family line.
I rectified that. I was going to say, because the idea of past, present, future, that we have these past lives. No, we have these simultaneous. If this universe is holographic, everything's occurring simultaneously. But what you just did there, I think you did a great job in you said defragmentation. For the computer nerds like me, like I totally get you instantly right there, just because I see the sectors and all the missing ones, and now how they come together and they're coming one. And what is healing? They say in yoga, the word yoga means yoke, as in the whole, right?
Yes.
It's healing is coming together back into wholeness.
Yes. And that's what holy means in the context of the religion.
Yes.
It's not holy, it's holy with the W.
Exactly. Yeah, the phonetics are exactly the same, and there's a reason. Absolutely. We were talking a little bit about, speaking of which, we were talking a little bit about the magic of spelling, like you said, and how we cast these spells. Can you go back to and share, now that we're on the record here, your your point about, yes, okay, you know, it's unfortunate we speak this language that was designed to literally cast spells. Good morning and have a good week.
Yes, weekend.
Yeah.
You are weakened at the end of 5 days.
Yeah.
So in other languages, the days have references to numbers or certain days or Sunday
or celestial movements even. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in English, it's different, and we refer to the most sacred rest period as the weekend. You know, I'm brought to quote the Dowager Countess of Grantham from Downton Abbey. A very funny scene at a dinner table where she's like, what is a weekend? You know, she's never even heard of the concept of working and what it would mean to be a weekend. So we shouldn't either, because we aren't weak. We're strong.
Exactly.
And this is where the spelling and the words that we cast, if we're not aware of what it is. Now, to answer your question, the human intention that comes from our heart, which is our battery, our superpower, our electromagnetic resonator that cuts through all the crap and goes straight into other humans.
Right.
If the intention is pure in wishing someone a good weekend, then it won't have the same resonance, numerologically, phonetically, vibrationally.
Yeah. Like you said, it overrides.
It overrides it.
That was the word.
Yes, and we need to know that we possess that power. Through our intention alone, through the purity of our heart. That's what it is.
And I like how you added through the purity of our heart, how you further defined not just intention alone, because there's this famous, I can't remember who said it, the road to hell, right, is paved with good intentions. So even with good intention, it's not enough. It has to be the purity of the heart.
And you have to mean it. Not mean as in mean. I should
There's
change
another
that
one.
word. Yes,
I
exactly. It's going to be endless. But
mean it.
We need to
mean.
truly intend that from the pureness of our heart.
Yeah.
And it's not about talking about it. It's about walking it.
Yes.
We don't have to do anything. We choose to be that purity of that intention and send that out.
Yes.
Because that's what cuts through everything and has the capability, if somebody is accepting, to penetrate in. And that's the magic of the power that we possess as human beings. Someone just actually said this to me. Hue means color,
the whole
light.
spectrum.
Exactly.
The whole spectrum.
Exactly.
I love that symbol of the yin yang, where it's instead of black and white, it's black and it's the whole 7 chakras, the rainbow, the 7 colors.
Yeah.
Because it's a spectrum.
Yes.
The white, if you take it through the code of the Trinity, is like the dark side of the moon, right? The cover, it's the 7 colors, and that's very symbolic. It's not just white. White is because it's the perfect balance of each of these frequencies. But yes, it's the whole spectrum, and hue is the whole spectrum of the man experience as an animal on earth, I feel. But we're beings, like spiritual beings, having the human experience.
We are beings of light, man. And of course, when I say man, it means male and female.
Absolutely.
Course, but human.
Yeah.
Light, man.
I think it's so important to not get triggered. Women, we love you. Like, if you can't already sense the feminine energy that is present here, even though we are 2 men, do your homework. Trust me, do your research, because I know from the little, even though I've known of you, I can feel you also embody as a man a very equal feminine temperament and energetic makeup and resonance. I felt that, and that's, I think, why we were able to connect so instantly.
Thank you for that, Nikos, and I'd like to address that because I was born this way. And that's not quoting anyone's lyrics. But
Baby, I was born this way.
I won't go down that
road. We're going to break
road.
down there.
No, but I was born balanced masculine and feminine energy. And I don't talk about this frequently, but it's the way that I am. And I happen to be in a 6'2", 240-pound, muscular Viking-looking man.
Totally.
But I've balanced the two, and my duty in this time is to model that and to show and walk that it is possible to find that balance, because that's what moving towards a full spectrum human actually is to balance the left and the right, the masculine, the female channels, to arc it all the way around to complete that circuit in the respective biological vessels that we have been honored to inhabit. Yes.
Wow, man. It's like listening to you speak, it's almost like hearing my higher self, how it speaks to me. And that comes with the wisdom that you've earned over these 5 decades. And I feel like I'm tuned to that wisdom, and I think that's why we connected instantly, because you're just a lot more time, and I love this acronym for time, temporarily induced mind experiment. One that you've just been experimenting with a little bit longer, and thus you have a lot more data, have had a lot more observations, and I know that, like me, you're not concluding anything. You're constantly just acquiring the data so that you can make a better hypothesis next time.
Absolutely. This journey will never end. I jokingly but truly mean it. I have a 950 more years to go. You know, we are meant to be 1,000 years old, if not more.
That's right.
And I truly believe that, because I'm seeing my body transform before my very eyes with the increased amount of frequency that is flooding upon us now in this realm, but that my body is beginning to be able to handle.
Right.
That's just what happens.
Totally.
I have so much proof that the unseen is more real than anything else. That's a whole area.
I know that's another tangent
we
can go on to for sure. And what comes to me as you describe that is like the question that it prompts me to ask you, and I think the listeners would want to hear, is what kind of practices, because this is an energetic thing that's happening regardless of what you practice. We all have this access because we live in this age that now cosmologically, even the resonance, the human cavity resonance of the planet, it's moving up and everything's evolving. However, you are taking conscious action to constantly access through your practice. And share a little bit about that in order to raise your frequency. What are you doing?
Humility, reverence, acceptance.
And what does that look like?
Honoring. Well,
what does that look like?
It means being in nature. It means starting to quite literally and figuratively stand naked in a waterfall and honor yourself and the elementals that are around. I had some very profound experiences in that waterfall. Trusted colleagues and trusted people in my life looked at those photographs and saw more than I was able to perceive, and said that there were some very special visitors that had come specifically at that time and place to be with me while I was in the water and I was undergoing my own series of transformations. I had that entire gorgeous waterfall and series of cascades and pools with the most beautiful, pure turquoise water and the beams of sun coming through the jungle foliage to myself and the tour guide. And I said to him, like, this 80-foot tall waterfall, I went
80 feet.
I went right to the top, and I needed to start that journey and then come down through the
So you hiked it down?
Afterwards, there's like a walking path. Not a boardwalk, but just a rope that you're holding onto. Thankfully, I had water shoes. The rocks weren't too slippery, but I'm glad that I had a little extra traction, because you're quite actually walking through like this raging water torrent that was so powerful. The energy in it, the love, I dare I say even eroticism that was happening with that power of the water was incredible. So I said to the tour guide, I'm going to prop my phone off, and because I'm the only one here, I'm going to take all my clothes off and just capture this moment as me, as a man in nature. And I said, if you would like to hold the phone for me, I would appreciate that. And he's like, he's French, so he's like, yeah, whatever, no big deal. So I was able to capture some images of me actually sort of in reverence and prayer in this environment, and they're probably at this point some of the most important images I've ever had captured of me.
There is something very special about being naked, because even the word, I'm a gymnast by athletic trait background, and it's gymnast means literally hymnos. The Greek word means naked. And naked means like stripped of all the layers of self-judgment.
Yeah.
Totally, man. It's something
I took off my clothes. I took off my amber. I unbraided my hair, and I just stood there accepting the magnificence that was around me, but the magnificence that I was allowing myself to actually feel and be. And that's what's happening to each and every one of us, whether you're aware of it or not.
Right.
We have been given this opportunity in this space-time fabric now to step across a threshold and become the all that we are.
Yes. I love that. Another thing, you were in the jungle, which is like, is a forest on like steroids.
Yes.
Right? But I love, speaking of words, going back to our spell magic, and the word forest I was recently made aware is for rest. So when you said, like, when I asked you about the practice, like, what do you, like, give me a practical, and you said right away, being in nature. Yeah. And it makes me think about when she said forest, you go to the forest for rest.
Yeah. People don't know or realize that trees, and I'll just use trees as the magnificent creations that they are the record holders of this realm. So that's why there's been such a battle to cut down old growth, because they are the record of all humanity and all life.
Totally.
This is just me purely bringing this through, so take it for whatever it's worth, but they don't realize that every seed and every sapling carries the same wisdom. So even if the grandfathers and grandmothers are gone, the wisdom will never be lost.
Right.
And we hold the imprint of all life in the entire universe inside our human vessels, which is why we can connect and resonate with every leaf and every flower and every bee and every being, because we are repositories and depositories of all of that.
Of all of that, exactly.
Yes.
And this field they call the Akasha, the Akashic records, it's a non-physical repository of all of this information, and this is the field that electromagnetically, like through Kirlian photography, you can even see it, surrounds and envelops every cell that makes up every tissue, every organ, every bone, muscle. And this is where and why, to me, the most sacred practice we could ever practice is honoring our health.
Yes.
Like today I was training with a brother who said, if you're not doing fitness, you're not doing life right. And I go, that is a bold statement. And I kind of saw some other people in the gym, like, you say something like, that's heavy. But I'm like, that's one I can get behind. And not in the sense, the context of, we're in a typical like gym where most people are really doing it for vanity. And I can say that because I was guilty firsthand. I was not bodybuilding, I was ego building essentially, and that's why I attracted, the injury, the subluxation of my shoulder, which interesting, trying to carry the weight of the right side.
That's the masculine side, yeah.
So that side of me that was like trying to like show I can like Atlas, hold the world if I had somewhere to stand, he said, that was the driving force behind me bodybuilding. It was ego building. But this is where and why now, after especially even being given a full scholarship in yoga and doing my teacher training, I realize it's not about working out, it's working in. And this is just now we're catching up with this now. We see yoga's taken flight, and why? Because there's, back to the word meaning in every movement. If you're not moving with meaning, then what are you doing it for? It's just to build, and that's all very superficial and huge distinction there, and really to tie it all back, like nature, I think is the pronunciation. I'm not sure how Egyptians call God, And it's where we get the word nature. So therefore, the closest to God we'll ever get is right here. Just work in.
Well, that brings me to a universal message that always comes through me when I'm in that state, sharing music or frequency or whatnot. It's already inside of you.
Yeah.
It's already inside of us.
It's inside of us.
And to build upon what you said and bring it back to your question earlier of what are my practices. Honoring the body. So being in the amazing sun and ocean of where I was, it reset my internal clock in order for me to not be so affected by the lack of light that we have here up north.
Right.
And so now I'm finding myself rising with the sun, or before that, and in the stillness of those early hours is where that core of peace can be found. If you can just carve out a little bit of time to be quiet and not go on your devices or be influenced by anything else, but just say your prayers and make your meditations, that will anchor everything.
Say your prayers. This is something that came up too, actually, in a conversation that was a little bit of a trigger, because Julia grew up in total dogmatic Pentecostal, like little town in Newfoundland.
Okay.
And therefore the idea of praying is like, I asked her, like, do you pray? And it came from almost a sense of judgment, because I was having my own sort of issue that I was processing and going through. I was trying to voice something, but it came out a lot more harsh. But ultimately I was trying to say, like, what is, again, like, are you, it feels sometimes like I'm like hyper spiritual and she's not very spiritual, kind of thing. And it's not the case. It's just we have a different understanding, because God is a personal relationship. It's not something you find in any religion or any, but it was prayer. I said to her, do you even pray though, like out loud? And she said no. But then we actually, after the heat of it all, arrived to recognizing, yeah, I talk to myself. And that is prayer. What I meant to say is, do you use these instruments of God, the lips, the larynx, the vocal cord, and do you speak out loud so that you can hear, also fed back to your ear canal, the phi golden mean ratio, and for all of vibration to receive, because that will echo throughout eternity.
Yes.
It goes so much more powerfully than when you're just in your head thinking.
Yes.
And what we arrived to is, the prayer was just a trigger word. The truth is that she does pray because she speaks out loud. And this is where and why I feel like we need to become so aware of our triggers and really like recognize if we're in a loving relationship where we're really committed to the we, not just the me, recognize that we have all our traumas. And in her case, for example, prayer and anything to do with church is like, fuck no.
Let's change that word to personal reverences, because that's what prayer is. It's personal taking reverence. It's a deep humility. It's a deep respect. And so my day begins and completes with reverences in a series of them. Some that I've created my own just through my intuition, and others that have been shared with me. Some days I do it and some days I forget, but I always come back to it. And there's a deep honoring and a humility that is involved in that, so that the intentions are always pure, and they're not only for me, but they're for all of humanity. And I constantly am focused on walking that walk and modeling that for others. When we do that, we give permission to our brothers and sisters to be the all that they can be. I'll give you an example. In Mexico, there's beautiful flowers everywhere, but particularly the bougainvillea that you might know as the hot pink or orange flowers that are everywhere. They bloom all year round.
I've never been to Mexico, so
they're all over the world. But specifically, they are there everywhere. Some are cultivated, some are wild. They almost have a paper-like texture, but the most stunning fuchsia color, like the light over in the corner there. I would ask permission of bougainvillea to pick a cluster every day and put in my big sombrero straw hat. And just the action of that was a form of reverence, not only honoring the plant that it came from, but the fact that I wanted to be beautiful and bring that beauty. And that brought so much curiosity from local people and people from all over the world. Like, who's this 6'2" Viking with flowers
picking
in his hat?
freaking pink flowers for his straw hat
with no shame and no embarrassment. And
I love it.
People would be magnetically drawn to me just by that one action.
For that action.
And I'm
of reverence.
Of reverence and
action
honor.
Of reverence and honor.
Yeah.
So like you said, changing the word. I love it. Spoken reverence. It's like...
Yeah. When we... Okay, this you reminded me. You're going to remind me of so much here, but...
I'm good at that.
You are.
My ADHD brain can go in so many tangents and somehow always arrive.
No, not ADHD. That's...
Oh, no, you're going to like this. I switched. I flipped the script.
Okay, good.
I actually didn't write this acronym. ADD I coined. It was the name of an old band. Alternate Drive and Destiny.
Beautiful.
And then I later learned that there's a different kind. It's ADHD, hyper, right? Active part. And that's actually more what I am. And I've been diagnosed clinically. But I wear that title proudly. And I teach when I teach FitUp in schools to kids that I give them a new identity for it as well, a new meaning. It's attention dialed in to higher dimensions.
Yeah. We are meant to be actually firing on all cylinders and
on all cylinders.
Yeah, and the amount of our bandwidth that we can handle is far greater than we've ever been told. Just like the visible spectrum of light, we only perceive with our eyes at this time, something that's limited, but we know that ultraviolet or infrared or radio, micro, all these other frequencies
spectrum
exist.
Of energy. Yes. Light is just what the eyes are perceiving.
Yes.
Energy even goes to subsonic echoes that are coming from other celestial bodies. I just wanted to point out, you just used two incredible metaphors in like one sentence. You brought the fire on all cylinders. Like, wow, I love that. I could totally relate to that. And anyone who knows cars, like, what good is a car if it's a V12, if you're only using like 8 cylinders? But then you also use the word bandwidth. Yeah. So it's like you refer to the mechanical animal sort of part of us, our being, our human, right, aspect. And then you also, bandwidth, you bring in that like digital, ethereal, spiritual. And man, I see that balance in you. I see those two, the masculine and feminine, have really merged so harmoniously. And I'm sure it's always a dance, and sometimes, you're too much in your masculine, and sometimes...
I don't resist it anymore.
No.
I am who I am what I am, and I accept it. And I was, I've gone through a lot in my life to take me away from accepting that. I've been labeled things. I felt I had to accept those labels, only now to actually discard them and simplify everything. I am a man. That is it. I have preferences on how I engage with a certain kind of energy that runs through my system, and that is it.
That's it.
I also wanted to say the human voice is the most powerful medicine in the entire universe.
Medicine.
It
literally is.
It cures everything, and there are scientists and physicists studying this. You've probably seen a video out there. I think it might be attributed to Greg Braden, who has shown footage of a tumor being dissolved live on camera by a series of, I think they were Chinese Tibetan monks, or not Chinese, but you know what I mean, monks, with toning, and the ultrasound is showing the tumor dissolving through the frequency of the human voice. That's how powerful.
Joe Dispenza is doing a lot of this work as well. They're friends. They're like homeboys.
Yeah. I don't follow anyone. I don't read anything, and so I could be considered illiterate in that regard, or possibly potentially ignorant. But the point of that is that I accept that my entire life And the reality is showing itself now more than ever is that I've been guided by my intuition, and all of us have that. And so when we allow ourselves not to be, quote unquote, polluted by others' words, not that they're wrong, they are just their words. We allow ourselves the stillness to be able to believe the voice that is already running through us. Yes. And that is how we earn our discernment. That is how we are able to navigate the challenges that are put in front of us.
Yes.
And believe me, they get finer and finer and, to use this word, trickier and trickier.
Yes.
But it is all about high-level spiritual discernment.
Yes, yes. And that's why I was like, my side. You're going to love this, especially with all the Scorpio energy that you have in your chart. We haven't even gone into that.
Yeah, we haven't even gone into that.
We're not going to be able to, because this is going to be a short, sweet intro to what's going to be
I so look forward to continuing in the future, brother. I really do.
Absolutely, bro. But this quote came to me when I went out on the dock, when I was fighting with some of my demons and I needed to consult the lake, because that's my little happy, safe space. And it was, when you dare courageously to go to those depths, you realize this shit is not so complex. It's so simple, but you have to be willing to go to the core of what you're fighting, because you're only fighting yourself, and going kind of like a prelude to the next conversation that will be more focused on the archetypes and the navigational systems used by these ancients, called astrology and cosmology in general. We'll dive more into that, but for now, I wanted to also recognize and acknowledge how in what you just shared, interestingly enough, and I'll share it in the comments below, there's one verse that I wrote called Mission, and there's also a song called The Voice Inside that literally it encapsulates this entire message. Like, it goes, I'm on a mission guided by my intuition. Every repetition, execute it with precision. My body is a temple, so I always listen to whatever it needs till I'm free from this condition. And in that, I know I was still identifying with the vice of ADHD. And since then, after hearing this new acronym that I love, I can totally subscribe to, attention dialed into higher dimensions.
My dear, it is your superpower. It is not a limitation. You are actually perceiving more levels of frequency simultaneously, which is why in the limitations of where we are right now, it seems like, where's Nikos? He's over here. No. It's your superpower.
It's your superpower. I love that. Yeah. And it's just that you need the ADHD brain, or neurodiverse is a better term that they're now using in the academic world. It's just interest. If you're not interested, sure, you're just going to start ping-ponging like from Jupiter, bouncing off Mars, but you're aware of all of that. It's only when there is either urgency or emergency physically, or interest, something new that, like creativity, something you can, indulge your creative spirit with, that all of a sudden you're, boom, razor sharp focused.
I also want to just share sort of one last thing about reverence and daily practices, and that is to cleanse yourself, not only at the beginning of the day, but the end of the day. I have a bath every day.
A bath. Wow. Ideally a bath. That's one thing we're missing in our apartment. We have a shower. There's the bath.
There we go.
The lake.
Exactly. Well, you get the power of temperate. The difference in electrical magnetic frequencies, which is temperature. You get the benefit of that. You can handle that, and that's great.
With the cold exposure. Yeah.
But
it's getting harder though as it's getting colder. That's for sure.
I've been in Lake Ontario in March, so I know, and I do not like cold water. But,
Lake Ontario is cold.
But having a bath and bathing myself every night and soaking in the water, of which I put in sometimes Epsom salt, sometimes pure sea salt or Celtic sea salt that has all of the trace minerals that our body can actually absorb. Popping in a few drops of
essential oil, frankincense. That's what it was.
Make it your reverent ritual to let the water quite figuratively cleanse you and take away your troubles or your worries.
It's the solution.
It is
right?
the solution.
What do we in science and chemistry? That's how we neutralize everything. Whether even the worst, most like dangerous acids, you just put enough water.
Yeah.
So it's the solution, and that's what a solution is.
And I don't know what they say, but what's the percentage of the human body,
right.
the vessel is, 80, 90% water. That's
it's like 98% at conception.
There we go. That is the interface to the ether, to the spirit, is water. Dr. Emoto, which the studies of yes, intention.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it is.
Dr. Masaru Emoto, just for you guys who may not yet have heard of him, he was the first to photograph a water molecule, like a droplet, under a microscope. And he was playing with, what he was seeing was sacred geometry when that water was structurally surrounded by good vibes. And he was doing this with literally a bottle of water with a picture of Hitler versus a picture of the Dalai Lama or something, Mother Teresa. They did it with music, heavy metal, versus classical. They did it with just affirmations. I love you, and check it out. He passed away, I think, last year. He was a Leo. I remember looking up his astrology. He was a Cancer Leo. He was in between, which is interesting because that's us. You're Cancer, you said Sun.
Well, we won't go into.
We're not going to go. But
I'll just leave you with this. I'm a quadruple Scorpio. I'm a Scorpio Sun. I'm a Scorpio Ascendant.
Yeah, that's
I'm a
right.
Scorpio
November 5th.
Venus.
You're Scorpio Sun.
And I'm a Scorpio Mars.
Ascendant
my moon is
Mars.
Cancer.
And your moon is in Cancer. That was right.
So I'm all water. I have a little bit of, I think, Sag or Capricorn and some Libra in there, but
stay tuned for that conversation, guys, because
it makes
this guy,
life a little intense.
Yeah. We're gonna leave you off with that mystery. I mean, very Scorpio of us, but yes, I remember that quadruple Scorpio and your Sun. It's your moon is in Cancer, which is the best place for the moon to be in, and it's probably explains why you're the being that you are, because all that Scorpio energy, that's complex. Those are deep depths. But you've done that dive. I can see it. And you've had compassion and gentleness with yourself and your moon, because your moon's your inner world. So I guess that's helped you navigate amidst. And it makes sense why you just daily baths. You know what I heard there? You're being baptized. You're self-baptizing every day.
Well,
reborn.
Exactly. And later I'll tell you about the Temescal, which is the Mexican sweat lodge tradition, which is quite figuratively a rebirthing, and I experienced that to round out my whole sort of honoring, healing journey that I had in Mexico for my 50th birthday. This has been so wonderful, Nico.
Brother, yes, a pleasure. To be continued.
Indeed, my friend.
Stay tuned, guys, because this is just literally the tip of the iceberg. There's so much we're going to cover.
Oh, we could talk for days.
Yeah. And not to mention, we didn't even get to the part that I wanted to really, and maybe, what time is it now? We'll do a small little recording, okay? Because I wanted to share and show who you are as a vocalist. Like, that's a whole other dimension we haven't even talked about. James, that's how I actually tuned into you.
I remember what you said to me. You said, because I hadn't sung in like 12 years, and I met you about 2 years ago at a gathering, a community gathering, and there was just that instant connection. And somebody was singing, and I just started to sing along.
You started singing along?
I remember you said, "Brother, there's more inside of you that needs to come out." And then I you heard me, and you saw me, and you felt me, and it was the beginning of music and sacred music, and sharing that energy coming back into my life was that moment.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a whole other journey.
Wow, man. Talk about, but yeah. Well, I'm glad then that we're also gonna be exploring that, because that was what brought us together, is hearing the tone of your voice, what I call soul recognition instead of voice recognition, because the eyes are the windows of the soul, but the voice is the soul. And when I heard your voice, I knew, and that's right there why I started talking with you. And then sure enough, we started talking astrology, and we just realized, like, oh my God, wow, this is a an amazing synergy I want to further explore. And the singing part though was just, you told me that you've done opera, and you're what did you call it? Something tenor?
I classically trained for 10 years at the Grind, thinking I was going to be entering into the classical musical world, and I was on stage 75 times with an orchestra.
Wow.
Which is in itself a incredible experience. God. I don't even know if there's any of that exists out in the world, so don't bother looking it up, but those memories are held within me, and the casts and all of that.
Right.
But yes, I was en route to become a dramatic tenor.
That was
and it. I was right at the cusp of being a spinto tenor, which is a tenore di spingere, which has like a bite to it. So I sound like a bass baritone when I speak.
You do, yeah.
But I have a 3.5 octave working voice.
Wow.
And so I have these piercing high notes, and the whole technique and discipline of classical singing is to create a seamlessness through all registers, where you're not flipping, but it's actually connected from your lower diaphragm, and then it shoots out of the top of your head.
Falsetto, that high falsetto.
But it's not a falsetto. It's actually a chest voice, but you're channeling it so purely and cleanly that it connects without weight, but has that piercing ring without flipping into like a yodel or a falsetto. Which you hear in pop singing, because they're not actually anchored from their solar plexus and their core.
Right.
Anyway,
I totally get what you're saying. I know it sounds a little technical for maybe some people's ears, but a lot of people, and this is the direction of the next sort of season of podcasts, is to not just connect the dots, but express the thoughts, and therefore get up close and personal with artists, singers, musicians, and dive deeper in that process of creative expression, because that's really my life's work and what I'm devoted to doing here. Yes, I'm going back to school for massage therapy because I want to really, with my hands, help tune, as I do as a sound engineer when I'm in Cubase and on a mixing console. I want to help tune this divine design, this instrument, the most beautiful instrument.
Most beautiful.
But I also want to keep doing more sessions and helping people. We landed on creative expression coach, artist development specialist. Like, that's what I do, and that's what I want to help you, whoever you're out there who's like just on the brink of like, I've always sang, I always wanted to sing. Like, I want you to actually give it a try, and I want to be that guy who can hold you.
Such healing can come through the voice, and I have started to dabble in that area a little bit, and it's very powerful. If people want to connect with me and know a little bit more,
where can they find you?
Thank you.
Absolutely.
On Instagram is the only place that I am. I'm a very private person in many ways, but yet I feel compelled to share the authenticity that I'm beginning to discover in myself. So you can find me at the.king.of.james on Instagram, the King of James.
And you got the dots. I remember that.
Yeah. Well, I think somebody else had the handle or something.
Right. I love it. Just symbolically. It's so like it stretches it and just makes it so big and take up so much space in the best ways.
Well, I took adult ballet years ago so that I would stop knocking glasses, which I no longer have any, off the counter, and become a little bit more aware of my form in space, and refine my movements a little bit.
Cool. So on Instagram, that's your main platform.
That's my
that's
main
great.
one.
Keep it focused, keep it simple.
Yep.
The.king.james. The.king.of.
The King of James with dots between.
In between. No dot at the end.
No dot at the end.
In between.
You'll see a picture of me with a bandana pop up, and you'll find me. And there's one pinned, I think that's what the kids call it.
Pinned
video, and that is a snippet of me in sacred flow, which is when I go into a semi-trance state and I compose on the spot. And I'm looped with myself, and I'm singing with myself. And there was a bass player, a guitarist, same person, and a sacred drummer. And it's like a 1-minute snippet of what was an 18-minute nonstop flow.
Wow.
So that's the thing that makes me the most proudest, is sharing that, and to be able to be invited to be a part of those sacred gatherings where I can enter into that state and let Father, Mother, God, source of all, come through me and articulate. I'm just the vessel that it uses. Right. I just have little chords in here.
Yeah.
But it's universal healing for everyone. So Nikos, I love you. Thank you for this
my pleasure.
Serendipitous, spontaneous invitation today. Yeah. Seriously, that's how we roll.
This couldn't have been planned. If we planned it, it wouldn't have happened. Some things are just meant to happen in just that way. And I'm looking forward to exploring more of that side of you as well. The astrology we're going to talk about, but we're also going to do an actual, I'll bring out the loop station and we'll feed it through. And we might actually go live with this one, because that's another thing I do want to start doing in the future is I want to start going live, because I always say, like, I'm a Leo and I kind of hide because of the amount of pride that Leo has in the public eye. I tend to, get shy from, but truth is I'm fly, and I just need to hold myself accountable to the FLY acronym that I preach. First, love yourself.
No fear, no shame. When we show our vulnerability and authenticity for the all that we are, from the pureness of our heart, that's all we can do.
That's it.
And that gives permission to everyone else to explore that within themselves. And that becomes the walk that you walk.
Yes. Amazing. Amazing. Remember, when the thoughts are calmly collected and the imagination's properly directed, the dots are easily connected. I'm your host, Nico. Remember who you are.